I want to talk on what I call the shift for Africans rising. The shift for Africans rising. That if I say Africans rising, you say I am rising. When I say for the second time, you say you are rising and you point to somebody. And for the third time, you will stand up and shout, we are rising. Africans rising?
I am rising.
Africans rising?
We are rising.
Africans rising?
We are rising.
Put our hands together for ourselves. You stood up for the last part, making a declaration that you want to take a stand for Africans rising. You stood up for the last part to take a stand for Africans rising. But your stand will be meaningless until there is a shift to where we want to go. Your stand will be absolutely meaningless until there is a shift to where we want to go. The challenges confronting Africa are diverse, multi-purpose, hyper-hidden. So much that when you look at the continent, you just want to throw your hands in despair. But if we collectively stand together and decide to shift and the balance of the strength goes to one side, I believe deep down my heart, like the way the Nkrumahs, the Jomo Kenyattas, the Nyereres, the rest, when they stood together and made a shift, when the balance and the strength went to one side, we saw what happened. It went so far to Haiti, to the United States, to a part of Canada, and in Europe. That is the shift I want to talk about. If Africans really need to rise, then we need to make a shift. The moment you mention Africa, I want you to ask yourself, what comes to mind? Please, moderator, let's do this together, because I don't have a slide to speak to. I want us to do this together. Moderator, help me. Someone help me with the microphone. The moment you hear Africa as an African, what comes to your mind? Please let it come. The moment as an African, when you hear Africa, what instantaneously comes to mind?
Hope.
Yes, hope. Resilience. Culture. Surviving.
Unity.
Managing. Corruption.
Oliver Twist.
So, all these words that comes out of our mouth are not by accident. These words that comes out of our mouth as to how we see Africa are not by accident. They are a collection of set of things that have happened or things that we have experienced that have been imprinted into our minds. So before you say something, science says that it has already taken place in your brain before you even utter the word. So we need to begin to ask ourselves, what are the things that have formed set of how we see Africa and how we perceive Africa? What are the sets? Because the shift and the rising we want to make, if there aren't a shift, I'm going to be very blunt with you, we aren't going to go anywhere. Because there are sets that even when you sleep and you think you are dreaming, these are the thoughts or things that you have experienced in your personal lives that are playing out. So Africa cannot rise if you don't have a shift in the way we think. When we don't have a shift in the way we see Africa, because science has also proven that whatever you see, it plays back into your memory. You record it back into your memory. So whatever you are seeing, it's possible that even when you go blind, you still have the vision of what you saw before going blind. So what are you seeing in Africa? Please, what are you seeing in Africa? Gerontocracy. Okay. What are you seeing in Africa? Madam? Cold call, don't mind me.
Leaders getting richer. Leaders getting richer.
Leaders getting richer. What are you seeing in Africa? Please? Africa is rising, and we need to tackle what it is that we need to rise. What else do you see in Africa? Too many investors. Selfish interest. Let's be blunt. We are interrogating, we are troubleshooting what we have so that we can set a foundation that we can rise on. What do you see in Africa that even when you close your eyes, you know this one, it is happening? Low self-esteem. What else? Wars.
Young people insulting leaders and going back to repeat their mistakes.
Thank you. We inherit what we accuse.
Pettiness and divisive characters.
Pertinence and divisive characters. So, all these sum up to the point that I'm saying that for us to really rise up, we will need a shift. Mindset is the summation of all these that we have what? Enumerated. The set of the words we have enumerated goes back into our mind and it forms what we call what? Mindset. How many Nigerians are here? Nigerians? 1, 2, 3. Gambians? Liberians? South Africans? Kenyans? Ghanaians? Host nation. Let's be very honest. When you hear your fellow brother coming from Nigeria, what comes into your mind?
419.
Thank you. When you let's be very blunt, because until we interrogate our thinking, until we interrogate the setup we have formed in our minds, we cannot rise.
Yeah.
When you hear Sudan, what comes to your mind? Thank you. When you hear South Africa, what comes to your mind? Thank you. Thank you. We are troubleshooting Africa now. So, you don't see a Nigerian and see potentials in him. You see 419. Do you know the implication of that on your mind? When you meet a South African, the South African sees you. Now, let me give one example. It is only in Africa that we call fellow Africans foreigners and call outsiders expatriates. Why do we have such a slang? That we call our fellow Africans foreigners and call typical outsiders expatriates. It is what is really embedded in our minds. That is the same thing we pronounce. And the more we pronounce that which is engulfing the continent, it will keep on repeating. That is why my brother said somewhere that the leaders we accuse, given the opportunity, we perform worse than what we accuse them of. Because it is the consistency of the words we put out there. Because it is what our minds are made of. I was just scanning through the 13 richest young folks in the world. There is no single African. 13 richest youth in the world. Not a single African. When I scan through the world economic powers, every continent has produced or is producing an economic power. We have none. It does not bother you? It does not worry you? And you want to rise? With that kind of mindset that does not see potential but always see 419, see xenophobic, you classify your fellow African brother, sister as a foreigner. Do you know how the brain processes the term foreigner? So you cannot rise until you shift, until there is a shift in the way you see. Africa is 1.something billion. But we have not produced a single application that has a suspicion of even 100 billion. Go and check.